Shira everyone, and welcome back to the WaterCooler Show. This is your host, Tyion Feihr. In today's episode, we sit back down with Gwynaire, the maker of Neyyah. As some of you may know or may not know, he has released a demo for the game, which I believe is still available for the next couple of days. If you have not played it, I highly suggest you go to Steam and download it, as it is amazing and a very, very good trip back to the era of point-and-click adventure games. I myself was somewhat fanboying while giving this interview, and I thank Aaron for indulging me. That being said, please enjoy this interview and check out Neyyah. So, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me again. Been great. Thanks for contacting me, getting me back on board. It's been about a couple of years now, I think.
About 2 years. I think our first interview was in the middle or the latter part of 2022.
Wow.
I want to say August.
Yeah, it was a while ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Jeez.
But you have released a demo for Neyyah. How does that feel?
Oh, it's exciting, nerve-wracking, because the game has been in development for over 6.5 years now. There's a lot of me in that game, and it didn't really occur to me straight away after releasing it, like how much of me is just going out there with Neyyah, and you expose it to so many people, especially with the Steam Next Fest. You get so much different kind of feedback, and it's all sorts of feedback, all different kinds. And I guess it kind of was quite, in some way, overwhelming in a lot of ways as well, but very exciting. And it suddenly felt like Neyyah was going up, like onto another kind of like up a ladder to a new, a very new chapter in its life at that point when the demo came out. That's for sure. Public
reception is probably one of the most frightening things that any creator has to tackle. I remember when, it's not on the same level, but kind of a similar note, when I first got into podcasting, when we first started doing this kind of stuff, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, a bunch of people are going to hear what I sound like and know what the guy behind the avatar is. And that's just a weird concept, you know, and then getting feedback is, well, that's just a can of worms that honestly I wish was a little less intense. And for you, getting feedback on something that you have been working on for 6 years, and that can be either like positive, middle ground, or just completely negative. And I feel like especially in this day and age, the gaming community is a lot more critical than it used to be. So I gotta ask, from the feedback that you've gotten so far, how much of it has been positive and how much of it has been negative, and how have you responded to that?
I think you're right about there is a lot more of a critical eye to games. I think one thing about Neyyah is that it's had such a positive reception for such a long period of time that exposing it to this many people as it is, it's not screenshots, guys. You're getting the game experience. You're getting the actual game, the demo, which is such a small part of the entire game. But it shows the game. It shows off going past the screenshots and the pretty pictures and everything. It's showing more of what this game is about and my vision. It's been overall positive, which is wonderful. There's been an overall positivity for the game. Like, the wish lists have gone really, really well for the game over the Next Fest, which is amazing, which I really wanted. That's, you know, boosting those wish lists, getting the exposure. And it's interesting because it's kind of tightened the audience in some way as well. It's just exposed it to a whole
new crowd of people. Yeah.
A whole new crowd. You know, it's going past the social media posts that I've been doing so far, mainly for the game, and it's going into like a whole new world. So it's kind of daunting in that way, I suppose, for the first couple of days. But then you soon see the streams coming up where people are really enjoying it, and the general feedback I start making notes. I start bringing in what is the general feedback for Neyyah. What are people coming up hard against? What are they enjoying about it? And so there's been a lot of research into that, a lot of analyzing, which has been super valuable. I think looking ahead for my next projects in the future for making games as well, I think it's just a case of getting the testing happening so much sooner, getting people right in there and testing everything out, because it's it can be difficult. A lot of game developers struggle and they procrastinate over getting their game tested, and I get it. Like, your baby's going out there, it could get shredded by people. It could get, the positive feedback's great. It gives you the boosts to kind of keep going and the motivation, and the negative can kind of sit a lot harder sometimes. But you kind of have to dig out of that and put the emotions aside and look at, okay, well, what's the constructive criticism from this that I can take to make the game better? Maybe to avoid certain situations happening like this again. I mean, the feedback has been, like I said, overly positive, and it's been really good seeing people enjoy the game and wanting more of it, and being that, oh, this reminds me so much of Mist and Riven. It gives them that experience. But then seeing players as well that aren't so familiar with those games actually enjoy it as well. And I think that comes from the certain features within the game that help familiarize the player, and the accessibility options as well that are in Neyyah that really help connect the player to the game, and in the sense of more of the way that games are portrayed these days. So I know that from the demo, I can take a few steps back and return a bit more to the original vision of how exploration will definitely take hold a lot more, and certain story elements can be pulled back a bit more. And I think that's going to really help the game in so many ways, not just for those hardcore Mist and Riven fans, but also for the general gamer as well.
Yeah, it's got a lot to offer. I mean, I don't say this as a brown noser. I just say this as someone who grew up playing point and click adventures like Mist and Riven, and the amount you put into that demo, I think for me and a bunch of other people, on a very positive note, it was like walking into a treasure room. Because you literally not only tapped into the nostalgia of Mist fans, which I gotta say is a river that will never run dry, believe me. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Walking through your demo, it was great to find journals and start thinking about like who all these characters are. I loved when we meet Vamir. First of all, hilarious dude. I love that he's holding a remote control as a phone device, because I swear that's literally what it is. When you get to the world, you start to explore, like a normal person would. And so I decided to go in like a different direction, and he actually criticized me for it. And I was like, that is about the funniest thing I've ever encountered in a game like this, because it is like the natural instinct for a person, but especially a Mist player, to just go everywhere, to not be on a linear path. And the fact that he actually is like, what the hell are you doing? I told you where you had to go. Please turn around. And I was like, Nope, gonna keep going. But thanks for the warning, buddy. Love you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've seen a few streams where people have just done that, and that it doesn't stop you. You can just keep exploring. But it was something that was added for a way to enable the player to kind of keep on the track. And I think that was mainly coming from broader audience perspective of how would modern players, would they get... When I say modern players, the audience that might tap into Neyyah out of curiosity and give it a go. And that's wonderful, because then, it's like, wow, it's almost like they might not play the original Mr. Riven games, but if they see something that's like Neyyah, that's obviously coming out now, but it does have that point-and-click style, they get introduced to that. And if they cling on to that, that's amazing. That's so cool. I love that. And I think a very big difference, between how, with Mist and Riven, how they were made, and the time they were made, with the patience that was required to
Absolutely.
stop. Right? Yeah, so much more patience. And nowadays,
Oh
I was
yeah.
talking to
Oh.
my publisher about this today, just how things are so much quicker. They
Hmm.
expect 5 stars literally for like pulling a lever.
The audience is vastly different, and you're absolutely right, because modern games in any genre, they're very linear, they reward you very quickly, and they oftentimes hold your hand. So there's an entire generation of gamers that are
Yes,
totally used to that,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
that's a fair assessment. You got to take that, especially because that's the audience you're mostly probably higher on the chain, because these are the people that play most of the games nowadays.
true,
Whereas,
true.
as Mist fans and stuff, we're old. We're '90s babies. We're
Exactly.
kind of lower on the demographical chain, so that's
That was the original vision, the market. When I went in to make Nia, it was very much you're stripped from everything. You're not going to have any modern day controls, any fancy help. You are destroyed into the world and work it out for yourself. That is how I envisioned the game. That is how it was going to be, and that's how it went for quite a while. But the tests, going to expos, for example, in Australia, people were playing the game and different ages were playing it. There was a bit of a divide. There was more of a realization that this is too much for the general player. So it's kind of then looking at it from like, how do I shape things and make it more like how do I make it more of a Nia, for example? That's the most important thing. I need to make it a Nia game. While it's inspired by Mist and Riven, this is Nia. This is not a Mist game. This is not it's its own
it's its
it's its
own
own
thing.
thing. Exactly. And so the feeling I got is that when I started looking at certain features, such as the Traveler's Guide, the map system, action highlights, being able to press your spacebar to highlight certain interactions, even just having the inventory, which was always going to be the thing. Which Mist and Riven, those games, they don't do that. They don't have an inventory.
No, they're very light. The best thing you could possibly get is a journal or something. That's about as far as they
Exactly,
went.
yeah, exactly, yeah. Which is really cool because that's a cool design choice in a lot of ways. But I think for me, just naturally, I've always been inspired by those. I really like those Broken Sword style games, The Longest Journey.
Oh, my heart, thank you.
There's a lot of games there that have inventory systems, and they've always been quite fun, I suppose, in a lot of ways. Just selecting the item, the sound they make when you select them, all that kind of thing. So I think that was just always going to be a part of Nia, and that already kind of makes it feel more like Nia. The fact that you've got this first-person perspective, but you've got an inventory, you actually feel like you're interacting with the environment more in some way as well. You're taking something away and using it somewhere else.
Exactly. I can definitely agree with you that this does not give off it's a carbon copy of like Mr. Riven,
Mm.
because it feels like its own thing. Like, I love, personally for me,
Mm.
I love the fact that you have made it such a technological place. Like the whole computers, codes, things to open portals, journals, references to a culture that's no longer there. And then you've also put this level of mysticism on top of it, and it's just I'm just fanboying. I'm sorry. It's just
There's a
so
lot.
enjoyable.
Yeah, there was a lot. Nia is really deep. There's a lot of depth to Nia, and I think one of the things I can definitely benefit from in some way is just being able to gradually ease the player into things. Because the thing is, even the positive comments, the people who love it, there is and I'm sure a lot of people here listening to this right now, who have played the demo, they'll probably be in agreement that there is a lot of overwhelming emotions towards the amount of information that's given to the player right from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is mainly from my perspective of like having this huge story, this world, this backstory, this current story, that's everything that's going on, but being able to kind of deliver that in the best way possible. You will definitely be exposed to a lot more as you play the game. So my way of thinking is that I can definitely look at being able to put the exploration as the foremost kind of factor within the game right at the beginning. And then you mentioned, and there will be obviously, things that you do get exposed to in the beginning as well, like how the demo currently runs and how I envision it running with the feedback taken on board. And I've done a playthrough recently, by the way. It's up on my YouTube where I actually play through the demo, and I do kind of voice on certain parts of the demo what might be coming and my design choices. So definitely check that out. But I think another thing is the linear vibe that runs throughout the demo, really. That's kind of very different to how Mist and Riven are, and that's how it's very different to how Neyyah is as a game, as a full game. It becomes incredibly sprawling later on. I think it comes down to, again, being able to guide the player to a point, but I think the guidance maybe is a little too much. A little bit too much at the beginning. I think it can be reduced. I think the exploration can be enhanced. The freedom to be able to find out things yourself can be enhanced. I know whereabouts those enhancements are going to happen, because I know that at certain points within the demo where certain information can be valuable, but then certain information doesn't really need to be there. It's like scraping away at like a novel, and you're kind of trying to get the really kind of scraping away, even like a song or something like that. When you've written it, you're kind of getting the best bits, And I think I've done that even with the world building. I've had to scrape away places from Neyyah. Otherwise, the world would have just been too big. I've got places I literally modeled in 3D. I've created these places and I scrapped them. And I took them away, which is really interesting because I would love to go into more of that detail once the game is out.
DLC.
Yeah. I mean, and even places that existed within the game went through like different iterations of what they look like compared to what they are now in the game. They looked quite different back when I first modeled them. That also comes down to the hardware changes I made, the skills that I kind of built up over a period of years, literally. And then you get to a point where you've got this, this pretty much fully modeled world, and you look back at this scene, I'm like, oh my God, I need to go back in there and I need to update this place because it's falling behind. That is one of the, I guess, the slight downside of like when you're working on a project for so long, and if you're increasing your abilities and your skills as well, then certain things are going to change a bit. It's one of the biggest things I learned sort of halfway through the game kind of thing, is that I have to direct myself and keep on a very specific direction with the way the world building is going and the design choices I'm making. I've learned a lot through making Neyyah. It's been, like I said, over 6.5 years. I can see how this game would it could have taken half that time with the stuff I know now compared to what I knew back then. Getting the tests going a lot sooner, getting people playing the game, I'm testing it a lot sooner as well. Gonna be so beneficial. The demo has been such a valuable experience. But yeah, going back to like the Vermeer scene, it was kind of, in some way, it wasn't really needed anymore because there are updates to the build. And again, we're talking about the demo here, so certain things will be spoiled a bit. But you've got the color code puzzle that you have at the beginning, which relates to the Jalood, which you arrive in, the craft that you arrive in. And that was not there when the riddle was put into place that Vermeer speaks of finding the highest perspective. And so, interestingly enough, that was, even the scene where you're kind of going the wrong way, and he speaks to you and says, "Are you powered by sheer stupidity?" And and goes on his little spiel there. In some way, it didn't really need to be in the game anymore. Not because of like the feedback, but just looking at from the reason for stopping the player in that place.
That's something that I kind of can relate to. I do a lot of script writing, and I'll go over a scene over and over and over again. And when you're doing that, you kind of read it out loud at some point, because they always say read your work out loud because it sounds different when you say it versus how it sounds in your head. And I can't tell you how many scenes and bits of dialogue I've deleted. Like, why did I think this was a good idea? It doesn't fit here anymore. So that's to me, that's just the part of the creative process. But you know, I did want to say on the color puzzle, I gotta love. I've watched a couple of the Let's Plays people have done myself. One thing I really like is that people have just kind of stumbled on the solution to that by accident. Like, like I didn't even figure out that that's where I had to find the color combination. I was just kind of walking around looking at everything. I found like red, blues on certain objects. I'm like, okay, maybe it's this. And then for some reason, I just walked back over to the pod because I was like, maybe I can go back to where I started. Maybe there's something there. And I was like, damn, it's right there. It's right there. But I turned on the game. Okay, this is good. And that to me was a blast because, you know, it's such a figure it out yourself moment, you know, and figuring out finding the solution to puzzles by accident is a lot of fun. So
yeah, definitely. I think, you know, you're in it's introducing a puzzle in a fairly confined space compared to the rest of the game. So you're kind of introduced to something that is within reach, so to speak. Depending, you know, what kind of direction you go in, and also what you pick up on the console, for example, because that was an interesting one because that was the introduction of the color code, the registration code for the Jalood. You've got the picture of the Jalood. It says, make sure that the registration code is visible. Go and check the Jalood. I thought that was too much. I thought, I didn't have that bit in there, and it was only very recently that I added, go and check the Jalood to make sure that it's clear. I thought that's going to be too much. People are just going to see that and they're going to go to check the Jalood and solve it. But the observation of actually what was in there, apart from the color code, you know, it kind of missed a lot of people when they were playing it. And so it's what's inside the console that gives you the clue of where to go. You might go and turn around at the beginning of the game and see the color code behind you.
Yeah, there are like 3 different ways you could find the solution to that. It's so great.
You might see the colors behind you. I better make a note of that. If you're a Myst fan, you'll be like, yeah, definitely. I got to make a note of that. There's colors there.
Oh,
and then
brother,
you've got to think about the color code.
Notepads were everywhere. Like notepads, Word documents. You know, the fact.
That's amazing.
One of my favorite things that you put in the game, and you mentioned this earlier, was you just did hand-drawn maps. Oh,
yeah,
I
really love these. Hey,
yes. Oh.
So that was interesting. I didn't expect it to have so much. Cool. You know, I thought, okay, we'll get some map, but no, people were really like, wait, these are hand-drawn. They were literally hand-drawn. They were hand-drawn and pen, I believe, pencil pen. Then after that, scanned in and then brought into Photoshop and made to look like they were actually drawn on the paper, on the actual texture and everything.
See, people, really that's fun, dedication actually. Right there.
I love that. It was a struggle to know how I was gonna get that going because for a long time I put that off. I put the maps off for a long time. I was originally gonna have rendered top view renders of all the big environments of Neyyah, and some of these environments are huge, and having certain parts of the world are broken up, so rendered in different segments to save render time, but also loading the scenes in Blender, and to have some of those combined into one scene to load that up to render the top view is just insane, crashing the computer, and I was just, this is not going to work. This is horrible, and the time as well to make that happen on top of all the other work that needs to get done, because I'm pretty much solo
You're
developer.
You're a one-man team, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah. So pretty much, so you'll see in the credits and the credits section within the demo that you can read up at the main menu, while I've been pretty much the general developer of Neyyah, of pretty much getting this game together with all the story, the puzzles, the artwork, the world, and all the main elements. Over time, I've worked with, for example, Nancy Knott, who's done the scripts. She did so much. She helped out with all the FMV sequences, getting everything filmed in Western Australia. Microprose, they've got an amazing art team. They were able to bring the creatures to life for the game. I created the concept artwork. everything about the creatures, the names, and and everything about them. And
I
then they
loved
bring
that little
everything to
part.
life.
That was great. I mean, I don't want to keep comparing this, but I instantly had a callback to Myst 3 and the Squee. I was just like,
Oh,
oh,
such a cute moment, isn't it?
and,
Yeah, I like
yeah.
the squee. I love the squee.
I still have a little
Yeah.
figurine that came in like the
Oh,
collector's
fantastic.
edition. I stole
That's
that from my
amazing.
mother, so you know,
That's so cool.
it is.
Does she miss it? Does she miss it? Where is it? Where's my
Well, she
squee
kind
gone?
of gives me a glare every time I bring it up, but I think she's fine with me having it.
Yeah.
But no,
It's a good movie, good film, good film. It's a good game.
yeah,
It's it Myst 3 was actually my favorite Myst game for a long time,
a lot of people
and
feel
then
that way.
yeah, it was one of my favorites. Mostly through my sort of like my later teens,
Mm.
till I kind of started getting back into sort of game design, and especially with Neyyah Riven took over. I think it was just the kind of callback to also how things looked in England, and the feeling of like all the kind of like the rock textures, the rusted metal,
Yes.
the water, and having that very similar coastline here in Suffolk, England, and the Martello Towers. And I was like, oh, the inspiration just started coming for how this world should look, because I'm drawing from my own experience, having grown up in very similar places. So yeah, that was one of the big inspirations for sure. I was just blown away by the FMV, and I guess that's something that is definitely prominent in Neyyah, the live action characters. So
Let me just say, I love the quality of those. I don't know if you've played Abduction, which is another by Cyan Incorporated.
I've played some of that. Yeah,
but their attempts at doing that in that game were just terrible. And so seeing next, in my opinion, next level quality for actors on backgrounds like that, like not since Riven, actually, have I seen that level of clarity in those kind of cutscenes. And I have to say, Mason, may he rest in peace, even though I do not think that he's dead. We saw no body.
Okay. Right. Yeah, that was an interesting one. I wanted to get a professional actor to jump in and do that, but I was kind of told, you should play him. You should play a character in your game.
Yeah.
Okay,
follow in
why
the
not?
footsteps of Rand Miller. Put yourself in the game.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, that was cool. That turned out quite nicely. That footage was recorded last year in January, 2024. Mainly because I was actually quite happy with the January 2023 take, because that's when we first did the live action, was 2023 in the beginning of the year. I know. Tell me about it. It's crazy, isn't it? It's like the amount of time everything happens. It's all Vermeer's parts were recorded in 2023. My part was re-recorded mainly, and we recorded another character in last year as well. I recorded my part again because of some focus issues, and I was going out of focus on the camera for like a couple of seconds. Can't do this. So yeah, I had to re-record the part again. That was it was quite a challenge, really, sort of doing all the FMV stuff, the live action stuff. There was a lot of learning curves there, mainly just the sort of setup of everything, the timing as well, like how long things would take. We sort of spent pretty much the whole day recording a lot of things and cramming everything in, and we did really well for the day. But at the same time, you need a lot of time to be able to kind of like do certain takes. And I think when they did Riven, they would have had obviously a huge budget for that game anyway, but they would have spent a lot longer getting those takes and filming. And yeah, I've had chats with Rob and Miller on a few different occasions, just like video calls and stuff.
Nice.
And we've spoken about certain things, and it's been really cool just finding a little bit of certain things about his experience behind the game with the F&B stuff, the live action, the scripts, and I think certain things could have been for Neyyah could have been done a little bit better, but also at the same time, I think they came out really nicely, and I think that with the budget we managed to get from Screen Australia, that really helped the live action scenes come to life. Definitely.
I think you're right, and I think it paid off. I had no complaints about what I saw in that demo. It was, in my opinion, and again, I'm trying not to fanboy, but it was just so top notch. I loved every second of it. I was sad that I only got 2 hours and 30 minutes out of that demo, but I have gone back just to look around, and
that's amazing.
Yeah, I'll never forgive you for giving me a portal that doesn't work.
Yeah. Originally, you were able to explore a lot more. Actually, you were able to explore a lot more. But I think just giving the player the gates that need to be unlocked, but you can see what's maybe on the other side, just gives them that extra incentive to be like, oh, how do I get on the other side of this?
It does. It does.
It definitely helps. You give too much away and too much exploration, I think it then becomes, you dull it down a bit too much. It becomes a bit too samey. So you have to kind of restrict it a little bit.
Yeah,
at the beginning.
I mean, you did that with a lot of the controls at the
heater servers.
There we go. Thank you. But yeah, because we're all just now wondering, what do those things do? I want to know. And you left little symbols around. By the way, love the fact that we have to use salt to reveal parts of that map. But it's at
even that says, oh,
yeah. That was a funky puzzle. Like I don't know what I did the first time, but I got the keys.
Pietas.
Thank you. And I went to that contraption because I'm like, okay, good. It's going to work. And for some reason, the first time I tried that, it didn't work. And I was like, well, I know that this is the... And it turned out I was using the wrong one because it looked very similar. But at the time, I was like, I don't know what I did. And that just gave me an excuse to like go through everything again and see if I missed anything. Oh, wow. So I got to really explore the nooks and crannies. And what I really enjoyed is that you also put in areas that we could not reach. Like when we go through the portal and we're in that mine and you go out there and there's all these walkways and things and you almost get to this point where you're going through a door, but there's a force field. And I'm like, oh, you did not just close me behind a door.
But you can look down the stairs and there's something down there and you can see there's another building or something in the beach. So yeah, it's kind of it exposes something there, and that's kind of the cool thing about force field is it's not a locked, it's not a door as such. You can actually look through there, but you still can't get through. And it's the cool thing about those closed portals too, because they reveal the location but then they close back down.
Yeah, I like that. It's like you can go through, but you're not necessarily going to be able to come back. So make your choices wisely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Galorfiak Mines was actually quite a fun. Oh, that location became a lot bigger than it was planned to.
Your texture work in that environment alone is one of my favorite things. Like,
so dirty looking, right?
Dirty,
it has
damp,
that rocky, so much rocky rock textures and gloom and doom about that place.
Yeah,
especially with that music.
Also soundtrack. Thank you. Great musical scores. I really like that when you land in Neyyah, you just have the most... It's such a casual theme. It's like, it's not annoying. It's not overly dramatic. But it's like you can just keep walking through the world and just kind of feel chill as you go through. And it's so kudos to you on the musical score. I really like it.
Thank you. Yeah, that intro, that first bit of music you hear, that was one of the first tracks I worked on. So I composed that one. That kind of gave way to the other tracks that I've composed. So I've composed kind of like half the music, and the other half has been composed by Zayden Turner. So there's two composers. Yeah, it's really cool. And a lot of sort of a bit of collaboration there between certain tracks that have kind of been merged together as well, which is interesting. Actually, one of the examples is when you get the emergency video call from Vermeer, and the music that plays at the background on that is actually a combination of the intro, the character Vermeer motif that plays at the beginning, composed by Zayden, and when you see Vermeer for the first time, and then another piece that I did that's actually later in the game that I just combined together and just slowed the piece down, and it really adds that kind of like slight more. There's more of an intense vibe that is captured there, especially when he's like talking about the secret portal and everything. So that's pretty cool. And the musical scores, yeah, they've come out quite nicely. I can say that I think you'll enjoy the OST of Neyyah when it comes out. We're looking at probably doing like a bundle as well upon the launch. So
I was just gonna ask because, like, I will give you my money. Just bundle it all together.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, it's gonna be nice just having that. You can buy the soundtrack, or you can buy the soundtrack with the game. But even like maybe an art book of some sorts as well would be really cool. I'd love to be able to do something like that.
I would also love it. I mean, it's your game. You can do whatever the heck you want with it. But if you could add some in behind the scenes stuff, I mean, the more of that, the better. Because like, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I love behind the scenes stuff. Just the process, Yeah, that's what inspired me to get into the whole game development stuff. Is watching the making of Myst, the making of Riven, and how they made those games, and kind of made me think, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, it's a
I think as when I was in my early teens, I started playing Riven again, just because I was always into I was a big Tomb Raider fan. I loved my Tomb Raider games, Might and Magic, various different kinds of games. And then I sort of picked up Riven in my early teens and played it again. And I was just like, wow. And then kind of worked out how they made the game. And I think at that point, I was just looking for something else that was different to what I'd done creatively before. And I realized, well, I can combine everything. I can combine my interest for music, my artistic stuff, story. It was just an eye opener, really, when I sort of realized also how they made the game. Not really being much of a programmer myself. I don't really enjoy coding or anything like that.
Neither do
so
I.
The way that, I mean, I admire anyone who can really code. It's just looking at a wall of code compared to being able to render and model a whole world is, I'll go for the world building every time.
I took calculus. That was enough numbers and letters for me. Yeah.
Right. I like the way it works, though. So obviously, making a game, any game, you're going to have to do some kind of programming.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, but the way that Visionaire Studio 5, which is what I used to create Neyyah, it works in such a great way. It's very visual. And once you get used to the principles of how certain things work, you can, make things happen. That's really fun. When you start making things happen and that door is open and you move away from the door, it might close behind you automatically, but maybe you've operated something that's turned on, you should be able to see that in the distance. Then you have to render those states and within the engine, make sure that state is, showing to the player because they've turned it on or off. That you start seeing that stuff come to life. It feels like, wow, I'm actually building a world here.
Yeah, that's the main motivator right there. Like I've worked on projects, some personal projects in Autodesk Maya, so I do a bit of animating and rendering, and there really is nothing like getting to that stage because you spend hours and hours of modeling it out and texturing it and making sure the lights work, and then you're like, okay, let's animate this. And then when you finally see that beautiful bouncing ball just move in the way that you want it to, you're just like,
yeah,
okay, I can keep going. Let's do this. Next.
Exactly right. It's really fun. Again, rendering images, you see the render come to life in front of you. So that's really nice.
Yeah, the fact that like it's it's all still imagery, but it's an art form that one thing I personally hope comes from this is that this will not only be a callback to, Mist Riven, all the games of that era, but it'll reintroduce this to a whole new generation who might fall in love with point and click games. Because I've always made this argument with a buddy of mine. I'm like, why does no one tap into this anymore? Like, I get that back then there was what we were talking about earlier, like there was more patience for losing something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that these can't work in this day and age. And I think Neyyah is a solid proof of concept that it actually can. It's
Yeah, I think definitely. I never really had doubts about it. Like, I've had so many people say, "Why aren't you doing this in Unreal? Why aren't you doing this in real time?" Obviously, but at the same time, it's the charm of those games that I really love. Also technically, like the ability as well. Like being able to use something like Visionaire Studio 5 is for me a lot easier than having to learn a brand new engine. Probably, Unreal Engine, for example. So many people use it. There's a lot of resources out there for how to use it. But I'd rather kind of focus on being able to get my vision out there and building a world and getting people in and jumping in and exploring it.
Yeah. Plus, your way of doing it, in my opinion, is more artistic. Like,
it's in some way it is.
I mean, now you need to tell them, okay, yeah, maybe in 20 years after this has become retro, then I'll do a Unreal Engine version of Neyyah, and just follow in Cyan's footsteps. Just
like
wait.
that. Well, another thing as well is VR, the technology, how fast that will, how far that will
go,
evolve. Exactly, down the track, we're looking in, something like a project like that might take a little while, especially with other projects down the line that I want to do. But then, bringing like a Neyyah to 3D real time would be pretty cool. There's already been talks on how that could be done. There's going to be a lot of changes within the assets, I think, because everything is saved. I've got everything backed up, obviously, but there's a lot of complexities that you can probably get away with in Blender, pre-rendering and rendering the scenes that you can't so much get away with in Unreal. But then again, Unreal Engine 5, you can do a lot of like, the nanite stuff where you can do unlimited amount of polys. And the only thing, and this is another thing I think that's really cool about doing a game like pre-rendered like this, it's not just the composition, is the artistic force perspective, getting some really beautiful views. Like when you come out into the Glorfiak mines from that tunnel after seeing the creature, and then you go out and you see that the lab in front of you with the floating crystals, and the music kicks in, the bow of the piano kicks in, and then it's just you're kind of, it's a cinematic kind of experience in some way, when in real time you're kind of just wandering around.
Yeah,
and you wander around.
Exactly. It is that exactly.
The pacing is so different.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think just the pre-rendered look is different to what's out there with Unreal right now. I think you can get some fantastic results with Unreal Engine 5. Incredible results, but when you render things pre-rendered, you're still going to have this different look to it. I think it was compared to a dreamlike look. Yes. Everything has this kind of dreamy look to it. Even the way that the light is obviously ray traced, everything looks very realistic because it's reacting like how normal light would react off materials like metal, woods, everything. So that's what gives it that realistic look.
Yeah, because you're there, but you're almost not there at the same time, which is I like that term, a dreamy look. That's very apt.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another thing is being able to play this game on machines that won't require so much video, video card power, graphics card power. So a lot easier to run it on a low spec machine. I had a comment on one of the YouTube comment, I think, on one of the videos, just saying how they were surprised how quick it ran. There was no loading screens or anything. You're straight into it because everything's pretty much off you go. So that's quite nice. It's quite nice. You can just sort of have that. You can go straight into the game like that. At one point I think I had like a water enabled setting where you could actually turn off the water if you wanted to, the water animations. But I figured, what's the point in that really now? Because back when Riven came out, you could turn off the water animations, and I think it maybe performed better, made the game perform better.
Probably.
But I think, with the Get Water now, it's just you could pretty much run the game quite well, I think, with the water and animated, and it looks so much nicer when the water's animated.
Oh, absolutely. Who wants to look at stagnant waves?
Oh, yeah. I think that was an improvement in the modern sense, where you did have animated water in the original Riven, but then when you looked at the water from a high angle, from a long distance, the water never moved. It was only when you're kind of down at the lagoon or close to where the sun is well, or certain areas like when you're going into the village for the first time, that nice ripple that you had, the shimmer. I love it. Such a beautiful effect. And that really did appeal to me. And I thought, well, that can be applied not just to the close-up water that you see around you, but from a long distance. And being able to adjust the wavelength and the wave strength and the flow and everything to replicate how water would be if you saw it from a very high angle, from a high perspective. So that was really cool, just being able to animate the water in that sense. Yeah.
And not to mention that great flyby that we get when we first arrive.
That was a really cool render too. That took a while to render that one.
Your animations, let's talk about that real quick. Like when Mason blows himself up, poor Mason. I love the fact that the camera, it just fades out and you just like run after him. Great smooth transition. And although I wish we could have gone out into that area, see the wreck.
What area is that? See, you mean go out to the area where the Jalud went through the portal?
Mm-hmm.
Aha! Right. Yeah. Yeah, that was because filming that, I wanted to work out how I was going to make that feel realistic, of being able to like run away, but then, I think the idea of having what they did in Exile, they had a lot of I forgot what it's called now, where they had the camera. They actually filmed it so the camera was moving through the green screen environment, and then putting the background in. And I didn't want to complicate it too much for myself, because this is the first time I was doing this kind of thing. So I just wanted the camera to be like still and have anything moving in front of the camera. I think everything's pretty much set in stone now, to be fair, for the whole game.
Cool.
Yeah. So what I'm doing now currently for the game is working on what I call location by location work. I go through all the locations within the game, and I basically check that everything's running correctly. All the elements are there, like animations, music, sound, the visual effects, the various different visual effects. There's no bugs within the puzzles, within the navigation. The right cursors are showing when they need to be. Transitions are working fine. Faster travel's working all good. Action highlights, colorblind mode, which I'm thinking, to be honest, is kind of lending itself more towards like color assist in the options, because there's a lot of people using that in the streams I've been using. Yeah, I'm playing. Yeah, a lot of streamers, a lot of people playing the game. I've seen they just sort of turn it on and they just want to see what the color is. Yeah. And I think it comes down to, it's quite nice because it gives you that option to find out what the color is straight away, or just give your best judgment of what is essentially something that might be quite worn down, because the world has the worn, weathered textures. That's what I love about Neyyah, is that it has that weathered look. I love that way of kind of just being able to portray a world that has weather to it, and kind of like it's got its wear and tear. It's been around for a while.
That's what I liked most about reading those lore dumps. It's like, there's all this stuff about what it once was, who was once there, and I'm like, I'm just thinking, okay, so he could write 3 novels about these people, maybe do 2 more games set in this. Just
Yeah,
having all this new
exactly.
lore, like the fact that I
Ah,
know you talked about kind of rearranging the lore dump, but the fact that
yeah,
you've made it this rich,
but it exists
it's
nonetheless. Yeah.
just yeah, it's wonderful. Because like that's part of the fun of an adventure game. Like that's what I loved a lot about, like you mentioned, The Longest Journey. Like I loved the awe and mystery that was in that universe, like the balance, who
Oh,
the
yeah. There's
people were.
so much
And
stuff, isn't it?
a
Yeah.
couple of years ago when they did Dreamfall chapters, I about flipped. Like I was eating that up, and I can't believe it took them like a year and a half to finish that. It didn't feel like it, but there's that moment where Zoe goes to the house that the witch used to be in, and Baba Yaga is there, and I was just like,
Ah.
oh my word, we're finally going back. And I always loved that scene because it was almost comical in a way, that the way that April killed her. She just kind of falls into the fire. It was just like, wow.
Oh yeah, I've watched because I played that game a long time ago when it came out, and my brother had it, I think, the boxed version, and I did play quite a bit of it. My brother played more; he got a lot further than I did, and I've been watching some playthroughs of it, and
Oh,
and
have you never actually finished The Longest Journey?
I never finished the actual game. No, I never finished
Oh,
it.
Aaron.
No, I never had that experience of finishing it myself. But the way that the game does flow, like for what I've seen of playthroughs, it's so full. It is literally like a long, long, long journey. There's so much stuff.
The
The lore.
environments alone were probably my favorite part. Like just from where April starts in her apartment to when she meets the white dragon in that beginning cutscene, to when
Yeah,
she goes underwater and is talking to like this sea creature that's nothing but an eye, to when she finally gets to where the naked guy was in the beginning. That's the one thing that I always
yeah.
say to
There's
people,
this.
like, be warned, when you play this, you are going to see an anatomically accurate male.
It does have so much depth. It really does.
Yes, that's a good way
And
of
I
putting
think,
it.
yeah, it's dense, and Neo is dense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
It gives
density
off
to
that
things.
same vibe, like from the environments to the music to the lore. It's. I mean,
Yeah.
when I finished the demo, my first thought was, if he decides to make this a series, this could really just go places. But again, that's me fanboying. You know.
Well, it has to be said, there's a lot in there, and you've only experienced the demo.
Well,
So the thing is, like, there's so much, and I think the world can speak for itself just a little bit more, I think, and leave the player kind of guessing a little bit more until they get to a certain point where certain things become revealed. So I think just moving in that direction a little bit more within the environment of the, say for example, the demo space, and maybe going on just a bit further than that, just letting the player kind of enjoy the world and take in certain things that they're coming across, because a lot of that information that you have within the demo, for example, that can be easily dispersed
oh yeah.
elsewhere, and you will have other areas that are going to be quite big. But yeah, it's all going nicely, and thank you again for playing the demo as well.
Thank you for making it. Again, it's nice to see this project really gain substance, for lack of a better word. Like,
Yeah, it
you
really
know,
has. Like it's a very different level now since having the demo out. It's on a very different kind of it's in a different dimension in some way now. It's just been exposed to a whole new audience. So it's been
now they're all going
it's
to go
really,
back and watch all your YouTube videos of tiny little crumpets that you tortured us over the years with. Yeah.
yeah, because a lot of people listening now. Thank you for like following the game for so long. It's just been incredible just having your support, and Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for continuing the point-and-click adventure genre. And that concludes our interview with Aaron Gwynaire and his latest updates on Neyyah. I'd like to thank him again for coming on to the show, and I encourage everyone to check out that demo if you have not already. That being said, guys, have a wonderful day, Sharab Hashem Tea, and I will talk to you next time.